Fuck it. It doesn't take a Monster Hunter Wilds hunter long, stumbling around the internet, to find themselves assailed by websites and news pages telling them the best builds for this or that weapon. There's nothing wrong with recreating these supposedly maximized builds for the strongest possible setup for your weapon. If done, it'll serve a hunter well. I've done this plenty of times on many games. But eventually, I find myself asking why. Why this piece over that piece? Why this jewel here? Why this weapon? How can I tell what's good for myself? A hunter has 5 pieces of gear, 2 weapons, and a talisman, which makes the number of possible customizations kind of absurd. And we're not even considering decorations that simply add skills to armor. But evaluating your equipment is far from difficult. It's certainly not some esoteric art that you must have gone through intensive Monster Hunter study to comprehend. That's kind of how I felt about the old Paragon system in Diablo 4, not sure if that's gotten any better. I'm by no means a master of this, and my way is not at all the best or only way to go about things, but I figured out a few shortcuts that help my brain make sense of it all that might help you too. If you feel like using someone else's build from online, that's absolutely fair, but I think there is still value in understanding why those builds are effective, so that a hunter can better play to their strengths. In this video, I'll be breaking down piece by piece, step by step, how I personally evaluate gear pieces when I'm constructing a set for a weapon. Most integral to any build is the weapon. This is important because certain armors and weapon skills range from immensely useful to completely useless depending on your weapon choice. The best example of this is gunner skills and sharpening skills. The ranged weapons do not sharpen, and the melee weapons do not gain any benefit from any of the gunner skills, so they're a waste when applied to the wrong weapon. Similarly, some weapons can block and some can't, so guard-related skills can go out the window if your weapon doesn't have access to that. For the sake of narrowing things down, I'll pick dual blades as the example weapon for this video, because it's the one I've been playing lately. A big part of knowing which skills will benefit your weapon comes first from understanding the mechanics of your weapon. That can come from practice, using it a few times to discern its various strengths and weaknesses. As much as it can be tempting to simply glue together an insane set right off the bat, I usually like to spend a bit of time solely with the weapon in the training area with no armor skills equipped, or fighting Chatacabra with some general or defensive skills just to get an initial feel. For example, dual blades goes into demon mode, which drains their stamina, so we can suppose that armor skills that aid the stamina meter in any way are going to help a lot with this weapon. There are a number of other skills that benefit dual blades, but for the sake of this video, we'll keep it mostly to stamina related ones. If you're ever curious or want to double check something, you can look up what other people consider to be the most useful skills for a weapon, and there will be plenty of pages to help. I like the Fextra Life ones for a second opinion myself. With stamina consumption, there are a few skills that can help. Anything with this symbol is a stamina related skill. Marathon Runner can reduce the drain of demon mode, Constitution can discount dodging costs, and Stamina Surge will help repair that dwindling stamina gauge. All 3 of these skills are absolutely fantastic on dual blades. Now that we've narrowed down 3 skills that we really like and want to look for, we can look into armor. We can go through the sets until we find one that has one or more of the skills we mentioned, Marathon Runner, Constitution, or Stamina Surge. Then when we find one, we can start to evaluate each piece. When scrolling through the armors like this, we can see the skills that an entire set would offer us. Almost every set is split between an alpha and a beta set, and we'll even have omega sets for some late game ones eventually when arc-tempered monsters come out, but that's not too big a deal yet. The main difference between alpha and beta pieces is that alpha pieces come with more skills, but beta pieces come with more slots. By this notion, in my opinion, alpha pieces tend to be better when you don't have a lot of useful decorations to pick from yet, because they come front-loaded with skills. But beta pieces are better in the long run because they're more customizable, especially when you get good decorations available later to fill those slots. Coming upon the Kutku set, it has Constitution, a skill dual blades really likes, so we can use this as an example to compare the alpha and beta pieces. Both alpha and beta give Constitution 2, but the alpha provides fire resistance 2, whereas the beta gives a tier 2 decoration slot instead. That decoration can be used to give us a bunch of different skills, which were only limited by the decorations that we have. Stamina Surge is a decoration that can go in this slot. Fire Resistance 2 is great, but situational, and compared to Stamina Surge, it's not going to see use in as many fights. Because I own some Stamina Surge decorations, I don't really have any qualms picking up the Beta Helm and replacing those 2 points of fire resistance with enhanced stamina regeneration from Stamina Surge. Because specific armor skills are worth a certain number of slots, there is a way I like to broadly quantify the value of a specific piece of armor. It's a bit like deducing the CMC, or converted mana cost of cards in Magic the Gathering. I call this CGR, or converted gear rating, but there may be another name for it floating around on the internet already if people look at gear like this. I have no idea. Using the Kutku Helm Beta from before as an example, it gives 2 points of Constitution, with a Tier 1 and a Tier 2 decoration slot. The main step of deducing CGR is figuring out what tier decoration slot would be required for the skills that the armor just gives you, in this case Constitution. Because Constitution exists as a Tier 1 decoration that can be applied to armor, we can think about those 2 points of Constitution that it gives us as 2 Tier 1 slots, just ones that are locked and can't be customized. This means the Kutku Helm Beta has a converted gear rating of 1 Tier 2 slot and 3 Tier 1 slots. Because Fire Resistance is worth a Tier 1 decoration slot, the Kutku Helm Alpha would have a CGR, converted gear rating, of only 5 Tier 1 slots. Generally speaking, the higher the CGR of a gear, the better it is overall, and better tier slots are worth significantly more than lower tier slots. Higher rarity armor tends to not only have more defense, but a much higher CGR as well. If we compare the Numinous Beta and Alpha Helms, both rarity 8 armors, they are very similar, and actually have identical CGRs to one another. Recovery Speed is a Tier 1 slot skill, and Agitator is a Tier 3 slot skill, so these helmets are worth a CGR of 2 Tier 3, 1 Tier 2, and 2 Tier 1s, making it generally more valuable than the lower rarity Kutku helmets. And because these have so many slots, they're very customizable, and with larger slots, this armor is just great, as many Tier 8 pieces tend to be, but if it doesn't give you a skill that your weapon particularly benefits from, it could result in a less functional piece. The choice is yours here. Another important note to be aware of is group skills and set bonuses. Both of these terms mean practically the same thing. The main difference is that set bonuses are unique to that specific set, and group skills are effectively set bonuses that appear on multiple sets of armor that can be mixed together. For example, the Kutku Beta set gives a group skill called Scale Layering, which grants us Adrenaline. This provides a stamina buff for a while when the hunter falls below 40% HP. If we like the look of this skill, we can make sure to pick up a total of 3 pieces of the Kutku set, or any of the other sets that share the Scale Layering group skill, which includes the Quematrice, Balahara, Hirabami, Rathian, and Rathalos beta sets, among others. While looking through these sets, I saw that some sets had skills I wasn't too interested in. Hirabami and Balahara both had skills for Evade Window or Extender, which could be great, but when I looked at the Rathalos pieces, I saw that the chest gear had 2 points of Adrenaline Rush. This isn't on my list of stamina-related skills I mentioned earlier, but upon closer inspection, Adrenaline Rush gives an attack boost after a perfect dodge, which is something Dual Blades thrives on. And we get a point of Scale Layering and even a point toward Rathalos' Flare, the set bonus for the Rathalos set. When comparing every piece of gear in the game, it can be really difficult and overwhelming, but being able to break it down into a few pieces or sets that give you skills that you want, and then being able to compare those different pieces by their CGRs and group skills or set bonuses, that's what making a build is all about. You'll probably end up finding a few new skills along the way that you really like I did with Adrenaline Rush. As a final finishing touch, there's weapon skills and talismans. Talismans can be forged at the same place as other gear, and I think of them effectively like a wildcard. These talismans can be upgraded once or twice and will give an additional point or two of a huge number of skills, letting you supplement your build with some valuable skills without having to steer so many of your bigger gear pieces. Because these talismans also have access to some Tier 1 through Tier 3 skills, there are variable CGRs throughout this list, but I like to think of it more as a freebie. Weapon skills, on the other hand, come from whatever weapon you so happen to craft, and these are always going to be amazing for your specific weapon. The set that I built when hunting 50 Uttunas was this one. I wanted to get 4 pieces of the Guardian Ebony Odogaron set for the Burst Boost set bonus, and after evaluating each piece, I decided that I liked the waist gear for this set the least. So I replaced that with the Arkfeld waist because it gave me some 1 slots, and it was a strong one that I had on hand with Weakness Exploit. There's enough Tier 2 decoration slots to give me Stamina Surge 3, and enough Tier 1s to give me Marathon Runner 3. With the help of my Talisman, I'm able to reach Burst 5 with this build, making my chain hits a lot stronger, especially with Burst Boost. But I am missing some Constitution, which has caused me some trouble sometimes. To help compensate for this, I usually eat the shroom ingredients in my food, because they give Black Belt meal, which functions the same as a few points of Constitution. Along the way, I just so happened to get 2 points of earplugs, which turned out to be amazingly useful in my 50 Uthduna hunts. That's another fun thing about making your own set. Sometimes you end up with skills you didn't expect, and you can find out that they're really useful. Unless you're literally cheating and applying every skill to yourself, there isn't going to be a perfect build. There's certainly bad builds, and some builds that are more functional than others, but it's up to you how much you want to invest in what. Just because a skill doesn't solely increase your damage doesn't mean it couldn't increase your effectiveness, and if a couple points in defense keeps you alive, an alive hunter is infinitely more effective than a dead one. Unless you have Fortify, I guess, then it was totally planned, and worth it. Some hunters would have you believe that certain skills are noob crutches, and that you simply shouldn't get hit, but I don't think that's always a useful or realistic way of thinking. Sometimes, having a little extra distance on your evade means you can play a little greedier, or having more defense means you're allowed to make a couple more mistakes, and everyone makes mistakes. A hunter is given a 3-strike policy on feints and a 50-minute timer for a reason. I personally believe that if an armor skill keeps a hunter in the fight longer, that gives them more opportunity to see the monster, play the game, and learn, even if they're doing less damage or relying on a few points of guard. In Monster Hunter Rise, I looked up the set for Sword and Shield that was considered to be the strongest, and I used it. I ripped through enemies with that thing, and when I fought with it, I could see and feel the damage absolutely obliterating things. Monsters were staggering like crazy, and I was always breaking parts. Sword and Shield also has a guard counter in Rise, but if the attack countered was too strong, it'll still damage and knock back the hunter, making it effectively useless against most attacks. Investing in guard and guard up skills let me block counter through some massive hits and play a lot more aggressive, spending less time repositioning and more time pummeling the monster with combo after combo. Perhaps by the most optimized times, it was not as effective as a perfect damage armor, but I had so much fun block counter perfect rushing into monsters with my guard set that made it significantly more memorable for me. It kept me alive so I could use life powder on my friends or flash pods on Valstrax, that monster whom I dreaded more than anything. When making your build, my biggest advice in the end, after picking your weapon and figuring out skills that might be good for you, is just to get a feel for what's fun for you. If you love fast hunts and big damage numbers, go for it. If you like dodging through enemy attacks or standing strong against an absolutely massive blast, do it. The options exist for you to use, to find out what kind of hunter you are. It's not wrong to take another 5 or 10 minutes on a hunt. A successful hunt is never something to be ashamed of. Thank you for watching. I hope this video helped at least some people to more understand how the gear in Monster Hunter Wilds works, and makes the prospect of gluing together your own set a bit less daunting. If it did, please let me know. If there's anything that confuses you, or something you don't like about the armor skills, or the way you like to quantify and evaluate gear is different, let's talk about it. Even if we don't hunt together, we can help one another by sharing information, and that's pretty magical to me. Thanks for watching. Be safe, good luck, and goodbye.